How do you select a pen testing vendor? Is it the number of assessments they have already done and the brand that the vendor carry, or is it the number of days that they take to give you the results, or is it the budget that you have, which is very low? Or it could even be that you have to comply to ISO 27001. How do you choose which vendor to go with? There are so many variables, and a lot of people don't even know what pen testing is. So, how do you select? For example, if you are a SaaS company and you want to work with fintechs, right? They would ask for certain credibility of the vendor that is doing the pen testing. For example, in India, the banks and the NBFCs would ask you whether you have done the pen testing through certain empaneled vendor or not. So in a case like that, certification becomes really important, right? So everyone has a different unique need, but knowing what goes into identifying an ideal penetration testing vendor for a web application is really important. Let's look at the most important things that you need to look at. For example, if you are identifying a pen testing vendor, you have to understand what kind of pen testings happen on a web application. One is black box testing, two is your gray box testing, and three is white box testing. In a black box testing, you don't actually give a lot of information to the vendor. You just say, here is my URL, just test it. In a gray box testing, you give some information. You basically give some information that you typically use to your user. For example, if you're a self-serving portal, you would give some sample usernames for the vendor to test. But if it's a self-serving portal, you don't have to give any other information. But if you have an admin portal for that SaaS application, maybe you should give that as a part of the gray box testing to your vendor. And then there is the third one, which is really important one, which is white box testing. In a white box testing, the vendor would have read-only access to your code. They can even analyze your code, understand your architecture, understand the kind of API calls that happens, and then do the pen testing end to end. They would do the code reviews, they would do gray box testing, they would do black box testing. Which order they follow, it doesn't matter. What's ideal among these? I would say the ideal is white box. But then white box takes a lot of time, right? You have to figure ways to give read-only access to the vendor. They have to test it. They have to cover all the WASP top 10 use cases and other variety of test cases. If a customer is a bank, I would say go for a white box testing to not get into any trouble later. Then there are variety of things that you need to look at when you're buying security testing from a vendor who does web application pen testing. One is how much credibility do they have? And it's important how you measure that credibility. Credibility can be measured through how many pen tests they have done and what kind of brands they work with, right? Or it could also be whether they have the CVEs in their team. Like, have they found any CVEs that are publicly available and you can validate? Or are they part of any bug bounties that were identified? Has the team found bugs in Facebook, etc.? They're not CVEs, but still bug bounties make a lot of sense. And then you can also look at case studies. There are a few customers who get public vouching, right? For example, if IBM is coming and saying that I get the pen testing done from this vendor, you should get it done too. That's a huge boost in credibility as well. So in terms of credibility, I would rate customer references greater than CVEs, greater than your bug bounties, greater than certifications. So what kind of certifications? Certifications can vary substantially. If you are in Asia, Certain and Crest are predominantly used or seeked after. But if you are in the US, OSCP is seeked after, or OSWE is more seeked after. It could also be, to some extent, GPAN as well. So certifications also help you get the credibility. They are like the basic layer. And if I have to pick one particular thing and say, okay, I will choose the vendor based on only one parameter, that would be the number of CVEs that the company has. So combining your pen testing reports, which is solid, it has come from our CEO, and it is very well structured. It is applicable for PCI ISO. I can use it for variety of compliances. It has a PTAS standard, PTES standard, or and at the same time they give you multiple retests and they try to test everything, retest everything within 2 weeks. So that's an ideal company for me if I'm a SaaS company.